Hi everyone, this is Doc Karen from the Ask Dr. Karen series. I want to say to all of you that I appreciate your patience. Thank you. I haven't answered questions in some time and I haven't posted videos in a while. I've been tending to issues of my health, but I want to let you know that all is well. I am excited today to answer these questions. I do not take it for granted at all that you have reached out to me to provide you with support and guidance. I am honored at the opportunity to answer your questions today. I'm going to move on to our first question, and that question comes from a young lady named Liz. I'm going to read that question to you now. Good morning. As you know, I suffer with pain, am on antidepressant drugs and anxiety drugs. There are some days that they don't seem to help. I know getting up and moving is what is best, but dang, getting out of bed some days is not even an option. Trying to take a shower is now a big job, and most times I need a nap after I get done. I am also trying to quit smoking, and this is hard because that is my one vice for all the stress. How can I deal with this in a healthy way? Liz, I thank you for your question, and I want to let you know that I went over your question and I wrote down some notes, and I would like to share with you my thoughts today. And we're just going to get started because I know that you don't have a lot of time. I could talk about these things forever, but I want to be reasonable with the time. I've written down 7 principles from Doc Karen in response to your question. And I'll start with principle number 1. And it says, forgive yourself and process the self-blame and then release it. Liz and everyone else who's watching, you may be wondering, forgive myself for what? I haven't done anything. And you know what? You're right. You haven't done anything. But I want to let you know that this is a common phenomenon amongst people who are in the chronic illness community or have chronic pain. It is a phenomenon of attributing blame to yourself for the illness itself, or being unforgiving towards yourself for not moving in a certain direction or at a certain pace. Sometimes, even though intellectually we understand that there's nothing that we did to cause our current circumstances, we still may wonder, what could I have done or what did I do to bring this on myself? Whether it's consciously or subconsciously. I want you to take time to process if that's been your experience. The second aspect is being unforgiving towards yourself because you have placed a certain demand on yourself or expectation on yourself to be past a certain point or to move in a certain way, direction. You say you know that you should be moving, and that's the best thing to do. Pay attention to that. Those are should words. And your experience is your experience. You've probably had many doctors tell you, get up and move, do this, do that, and everything will be better. And so we play this record over and over in our heads again and again that continues that process of unforgiveness towards ourselves. Process it, forgive, and let it go. Release it today. Number 2, acknowledge your pain and validate your experience. I want to say that sometimes our loved ones will ask us the question, how are you doing? And we've developed an immediate response, which is, all is well. I'm okay. Everything is great. I'm grateful to be alive. I use those sentences all the time. And they're true. I am grateful to be alive, and I do affirm that all is well. But at the end of the day, your experience is your experience. There are days I cannot even get out of the bed, so I 100% understand. We get caught in this cycle of answering questions a certain way because we recognize that our loved ones don't want to hear the truth. They don't want to hear the phrases, I'm in a lot of pain. I can't get out of bed. I know I could get out of bed yesterday, but I can't even shower today. It pains them to hear that. And a lot of the time it's not because they don't care or they're not compassionate towards us. They themselves are just not able to handle it. But remember, that's their experience. Our experience is that. Our experience. It is okay for you to acknowledge your pain. So, Liz, if there's a day where you cannot physically get up and move, then you do what's best to take care of you. Did you know that there's stress from placing that demand on yourself? Every day I know that I need to get up and move. Well, what about the days that you cannot get up and move because you're in so much pain? Acknowledge that. Validate that for yourself. It is extremely important. Principle number 3, work on the practice of mindfulness. This goes along with principle number 2. I'm going to explain mindfulness to you. Mindfulness, is the practice of living in the present moment, consciously and fully, without judgment. There's many areas where we can practice mindfulness. Driving, eating, those are 2 that I can think of. Have you ever been in a car and then you ended up someplace and you were like, oh my goodness, how did I end up here? I do it more times than I'd like to admit. That is a lack of mindful driving. Same thing with eating. We in this society do not practice mindful eating. We gobble our food. We don't take every bite and savor that bite, savor the experience of that moment itself. Well, we do the same thing with the experience of our illness and our pain. Did you know that there is research that shows that participants who actually narrowed in on their pain and acknowledged it lessened the pain? Isn't that amazing? That if you're able to acknowledge your pain, you give the pain less power. Now, I understand that you take medications to deal with the anxiety and you take medications to deal with pain. I'm not saying to live in pain. Of course, you want to deal with those symptoms, but that's what they deal with, the symptoms. Those medications do not get to the root of the anxiety, and they certainly don't take away necessarily the root of the pain. They just address the symptoms. It's up to us to be able to mindfully acknowledge the pain. Did you know it gives that pain less power? Principle number 4, acceptance does not happen overnight. Remember that you are mourning the loss of the old you. In another segment, I posted about the 5 stages of loss. Did you know that you are grieving your old self? I used to say that I wanted to go back to my old self. Nowadays, I say that I don't want to go back to the old Karen. I want to be a better Karen. And that just acknowledges the fact that this is a process. In the 5 stages of loss, it is not a linear process, which means it doesn't happen one after the other. The stages can happen at the same time, and you can have the same stage after a time that you've already experienced that stage, including acceptance. So those stages include denial, isolation, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. You may be wondering, well, I've been at a point of acceptance before. How can I be angry now? Why am I having such a hard time with denial at this present moment? But remember, this is part of the grieving process, and it's okay. You may have experienced acceptance before. Remember that it's okay to have the goal of getting back to acceptance, but at your pace. And even if you've already been in acceptance, you may go back to the other stages. And if you have any other questions about those stages, please feel free to watch other videos, and I'm more than happy to answer those questions as well. Number 5, release unnecessary stress. I stress this so much in other postings of mine. Now, I just want to quickly say that unnecessary stress is different from natural stressors. We all have natural stressors. These are stressors that just happen in our lives just because we're living and we're breathing. Being married, having kids, jobs, working, being a support person, being a friend, walking down the street. Any of those things can lead to natural stresses. And those are things that we deal with on a daily basis. But when I talk about unnecessary stress, I'm talking about stress that you don't need. One of those stressors that I like to talk about is having toxic people in your life. Start looking at the people in your circle. Do those people motivate you or do they tear you down? This is a stressor that you don't need and obviously contributes to greater pain and greater stress. And that leads me to principle number 6. Surround yourself with people who bring light into your life. Your support system is important. When I say light, I mean people who impact you in a positive way. I'm not saying that you can't be around people who are upset, unhappy, angry, depressed at times. We're all that at times. I'm talking about people who are constantly bringing negativity into your life. When I was testing for my recurrence of Cushing's disease, I had people who were light to me, and I had people who really were not that supportive. I remember one person in particular who I was extremely hurt by. She told me that I was obsessed with the illness and that maybe I wasn't being realistic about things. It was hurtful to my core because I was fighting for my life. I was fighting with the medical system and everything to get better. As it turns out, after my adrenal glands were removed and they did the pathology, that pathology lab result showed that I had been extremely ill during my recurrence. It validated everything I had been saying. The people who stood behind me and stood in my corner, even when I seemed like a whack job, those are the people who were light to me. There's an affirmation that I like to share with you that I say to myself now every day for the last several weeks. That affirmation is, I declare that I only attract people into my life who add to my life. They encourage me to do better and to be better. I attract only those who want me to achieve at my highest level of success. When I say highest level of success, I'm not speaking of this expectation that you have to get better right away. Your highest level of success is whatever is best for you at any given time. Your best day may be your worst day. In other words, your worst day, your seemingly worst day, might be the day that you're fighting with everything in your core. That is success. That is falling and getting back up every single time. You want people in your corner who remind you of that. Over the last several weeks, I've been conscious of that, and I've been saying that every single day. And let me tell you, these last 2 to 3 weeks, just the last 2 to 3 weeks, have been remarkably different. I've made some life-altering decisions, and I've made some serious changes that will change my life from this day forward. So I encourage you to do that today. And finally, principle number 7, affirm that you are a warrior. I used to say that we're survivors, and truly we are. We have survived things that many people would never be able to survive. But now I use the term warrior because we are on a battleground. We're fighting for our lives every single day. We're fighting to be functional every single day. And guess what? Even on the days that you're stuck in bed, acknowledge that pain. Accept that that's where you're at that day. Being mindful in the present moment. Forgive that that's all you can give that day. And acknowledge that you are a warrior and put people in your life and keep people in your life who acknowledge the same. I thank you that you've given me the opportunity to answer this question today. Bless you, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.